So my producer, Jackson Meadows, is a big Saints fan. And so all morning long, I've been saying, this is Kellen Moore's town now. And he does not like it. He does not like the hire. Maybe good, may not. Nobody knew who the hell Sean Payton was. I mean, he wasn't even calling plays in Dallas. He got his play calling ability stripped by Jim Fossil at the Giants. And now he's a Hall of Fame coach. And he's unbelievable. You don't ever know. And then the big names sometimes flop. So we'll see. We are the Out of Bounds Show, ESPN 1059 The Zone. It's National Guitar Day, and it's powered by USA Pawn and their unbelievable inventory and selection of guitars. USAPawn.com and their mega store, I-55 South, McDowell Road, 35,000 square feet. USAPawn.com. We welcome in Mike Detillier, Saints Insider, NFL Insider, WWL Radio TV New Orleans. Mike D joins us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. All right, Mike D. We love sports because it's so unpredictable, and right when we think we know something, it gives us something else. How shocked or surprised were you at what happened in the Superdome on Sunday?
Yeah, I was surprised at the magnitude of it. Just how dominating the Eagles were along the offensive, defensive line. You know, we've said this for weeks now. The Eagles, they have the most talented team in the NFL. But, and it's tough to win a championship at any level. So to see them do it in that manner, I mean, 40-22 is the score, but it didn't even indicate how dominating the Eagles were. It does go to show you, too, that in this football world, how many times you want to cut it, winning up front, offensive and defensive line is key. And that's what they did. They basically made the best football player in pro football mere mortal because pressure. And that pressure broke the football pipe. He had no place to go. And it wasn't like, he felt the pressure even before he took the snap. And that happens sometimes, even to the best players. You get caught in that spot. So there's a bunch of silliness about, officiating and luck and all this other stuff. You don't win 15 out of 17 games in a regular season with luck. Okay? You got some skill set. And that's what the Chiefs had. But, boy, they met up with a steamroller, and the Eagles got hot. You think about it, since their bye earlier in the year, other than the game in which Jalen Hurts get hurt, they had a 14-0 lead against the Commanders. He gets hurt, and, Jaden does his magic late and catches them. They didn't lose the game. Mm-hmm. So, it went to show the dominance of the Eagles all season long. Maybe we should have saw it a little bit more, but, it was like the trust factor. Is Sirianni going to be that guy? And I think when you look at the winners from the Super Bowl, certainly the Eagles as a team wins it. I think the city of New Orleans comes in second. Really came out a winner? That was Nick Sirianni.
Yes.
Our thought of Sirianni is different today than it was 3 days ago.
That's right.
Or 2 days ago, much less anything else. He really was able to piece that together and keep a team intact. And he goes to show not everybody's Watusi. You do it a different way. And Nick is sort of he's going to do things his own way, and if it's arguing with players on the sidelines, and I get it sometimes, because I've been there, I've heard, the banter between players and coaches, and, some people make a big thing of it, but it happens every week. You just don't happen to see it. Now, him picking a fight with A.J. Brown is one thing. Him picking a fight with Jalen Carter is another. Jalen Carter could squash him like a grape if he wanted to. But I think that Sirianni, we look at him a little differently today, in that he was able to manage a talented team, a lot of different personalities. I think that he made two really good hires as coordinators. When he lost his two coordinators after they lost the Super Bowl, and he hired two guys, it totally didn't work out. Then he brings in, Kellen Moore, did a great job for him offensively, and Vic, and I think, man, Vic and I go back into the 80s. Vic was really the outside linebackers coach with the Saints. He got the moniker of linebackers coach, but Sidwell, their defensive coordinator, he really handled the inside guys. He coached Sam Mills, Vaughn Johnson. So Vic, young coach, man, skinny like a rail. He was maybe 150 pounds, soaking wet back then. He was coaching Ricky Jackson and Pat Swilling. So, Vic is self-deprecating humor. He would always say, man, I ain't coached them to do nothing. I just pointed them in the right direction. I mean, what am I going to coach Ricky Jackson and Pat Swilling to do? He said, I just sort of pointed them. But, just a year ago, Vic Fangio was run out of Miami. And now, look what he did with that defense. And, again, winning up front counts. Offensive, defensive line. And also, too, certainly I think all of Football America saw that something I've talked about for a long time. I think one of the most underrated players in this game is Jalen Hurts. And I got so much respect for him as a player and as a man. He goes to Alabama and you're a starting quarterback and, you get yanked from the national championship game and Tua takes over. And you could have felt sorry for yourself, but he didn't. He worked his behind off and goes to Oklahoma, does a great job working with Lincoln Riley as a passer. I thought he was always a thrower at Alabama. He became a passer. He gets picked in round 2. A lot of people thought he might be sort of a Taysom Hill type player in the NFL. He continues to work at it, and his work ethic certainly comes from his dad, who was a coach. He's an old offensive line coach, and while the other guys maybe, having a good time on the weekends and all, his pop was up there. Hey, you got to grind. You got to work at it. And his demeanor and how he handles things, got an awful lot of respect for Jalen. And I remember him coming here demanding passing academy. He was at Alabama, and he kind of told me, got a guy there that might be pressing for a little bit of time in that tour, but I'm going to give him a battle. And I can almost like hear Peyton Manning talking to him about, hey, Jalen, set with your legs and throw with, your lower body and your body balance and control. You got to get better doing that. And how much he really worked at his game. And again, it's not all about the success. It's about what he did when things weren't right to get his game better, his work ethic, and his attention to detail is unbelievable. Talked to Pete Jenkins about it, and Pete didn't coach him. He was helping Nick Saban with defensive line, but he's like, every day, Coach Saban would talk about how hard of a worker, how much time Hurts spent in trying to improve his game. Yeah, and I always got a lot of respect for somebody when they put in that much time and effort in doing something. And he's talented, and we saw just how good he was Sunday.
Mike Detillier, WWL Radio TV. He joins us on the Out of Bounds show, brought to you by Rick's Pro Truck. Mike D is on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. Mike, I didn't know this until we had a guest on yesterday. You may have known this, but and you mentioned Vic Fangio. I think he came up with a game plan for the ages, and the fact that they only had to rush 4 was incredible. 6 sacks, 16 pressures on Mahomes. But Josh Sweat was the number 1 recruit out of high school on ESPN. Tom Luganbill joined us yesterday. And he had a devastating injury. I didn't know this his senior year in high school. Never could really get going at Florida State. And now 7 years in, was an absolute star, among others, on that defensive line Sunday night. But how good was Josh Sweat and that Eagles D-line on Sunday night only rushing 4 and dominating the KC O-line.
It was a nightmare. I mean, if you Kansas City, you couldn't block any of them. And Josh has always been a guy. I knew the story with the injury. He actually worked in the off season with. I just talked about Pete Jenkins. Pete worked with Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, and Milton Williams. And Josh's story is fantastic about how he came back from the injury, and he's really been a good NFL player as far as a guy that put a lot of pressure off the edge. And Milton Williams, and I know Milton very well. He was from Crowley High School in Texas. I think he was a 2-star recruit. He was a 6'4", maybe 220-pound defensive lineman going to Louisiana Tech. And look at his numbers and what he did Sunday. 2 sacks, a forced fumble, 3 pressures, 4 tackles. And so, you know, we talk a lot about Jalen, and he was an unbelievable talent at Georgia, and so was Jordan Davis. But it's the other integral guys there, and how much it all came together for them as a team, defensive line-wise. They come at you in waves. It's just not 4 guys. The funniest thing in the offseason, and Jenkins tells me the story, that, you know, he's working with Jordan Davis and Carter and Williams and Sweat, and, you know, the idea was they were given an edict by Vic Fangio. You're too damn fat, every one of y'all. You're going to lose weight because you're not just playing 50% or 60% of the time. You're going to be playing 70 to 80% of the time. And I want y'all in shape, better shape than what y'all in now. Jalen, I think it probably was a little bit more than 30 that he lost. Same thing with Jordan Davis. Wow. Milton lost about 15, 18 pounds. Sweat, I think they jumped him off 10 or 12. He, out of the bunch, he had the least amount to lose. So he was all right. But Vic came in and felt he could have this type defense. He really did. But he felt maybe they were maybe a little too heavy, and he needed some of that weight off of them. You see it all paid off, and you look at that game, and even though he wouldn't make a play, he was influential. Jalen Carter, oh my goodness, every play. I mean, he was more in the backfield than Isaiah Pacheco. I mean, they were trying to block him, and he would just push that inside pressure to the point where he had Mahomes running every play. Influential. He's the best defensive interior player in the game today. More so than Chris Jones. Chris doesn't play the run that great. Now, I mean, he's versatile, and he can rush the quarterback, and when he's on, he's on. Jalen Carter this year established himself as the best interior defensive lineman in pro football. And that's because, you know, he focused. He got himself in really good shape, and no one ever questioned his talent. He was talented. Man, was he talented. And they got stories at Georgia in practice, just overwhelming guys. I'm talking about he was overwhelming guys at Georgia in practice. Okay? This ain't no second-string unit now. This is a team playing for national championships. And he was overwhelming guys. And he comes into the league, and he was a little heavy year one, and he really worked at getting his weight down, his techniques. And, man, he plays with an edge. You don't want to get on his bad side. You get him upset, you might be in for a long day because he's coming after you. The Saints game was a great example. Man, he dominated play, and I think somebody tried to get him low. You know, they tried to cut him low. And all of a sudden, he's screaming at the entire Saints bench. He want to take all of them on one-on-one. And one dude up against 50-some guys, you know, and Bobby and I had a great view of it. Man, he's just screaming at the Saints sidelines. And I think they tried, so I'm just guessing somebody went a little bit low on him, and that really upset him. And so he was in a bad mood that day, but him and Jordan Davis, they spent 3/4 of the game in the backfield. Saints couldn't block them in that third game, and I think about that, how this team changed. The Saints actually had the lead in that game late. It took a Dallas Goddard big play in which defenders ran into one another.
Yeah.
For the Eagles to win that game.
I was watching.
And so it's like, whoa. It goes to show you, how teams evolve. And Howie Roseman has done a fantastic job.
He's incredible.
And what he's been able to do, not only drafting, and a lot of it is SEC players. And it's funny, we do a pregame show, and there's a certain scout there that he stops at the location we at, grabs a bite to eat, and goes to the Tiger Stadium. And the Eagles always got people there watching SEC. And look at their roster. It looks like a Georgia reunion. With all the guys there, they have players from Alabama, from LSU. They spent a lot of time scouting the SEC. And Howie has made the comment, hey, listen, they got the best talent. They got the best players. We're going to spend a ton of time there. Why shouldn't we? Because of that. It's a great example of he does it his own way, and some of it is cast-offs from other teams. Some of it is fit. You think about how Zach Bowen got there. No one knew Zach was going to be that good. And even Vic Fangio last week, Bobby got to talk to him at length about it. He said, we didn't have a lot of film on Zach other than on special teams. And, so we had saw him at Wisconsin, thought he was a really good edge rusher, and thought we'd use him that way. And it sort of morphed into another position for him. And he became one of the most dominant defensive players in pro football last year. Now, what happens now? Because he's a free agent. Do the Eagles try to resign him, or does he cash in and go somewhere else? So Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, he was here with the Saints. They traded him to Philly. It didn't quite work out. Couldn't come to contract terms. He goes to Detroit, stays a year. Then he goes right back to Philly. So Chauncey Gardner-Johnson can play. Now, he sometimes he sort of cut up a little bit, but man, I want him on my team because that sucker can play. And he is a baller. He's a football player through and through. And you have that, and then you got, other pieces of the puzzle you've drafted. Mekhi Becton, great example. He was an absolute bust as a tackle with the Jets at left tackle. He gets sort of told to get to stepping. He'd never played guard before in his life. They put him at guard. He becomes one of the top guards in the NFL this year, playing for the Eagles. Right team, right fit.
Unreal. Eagles dominate the Chiefs, and Sweat and Carter and crew were unbelievable. Vic Fangio with, again, a game plan for the ages. And Steve Spagnuolo has done that many a times with the Giants and the Chiefs in the big game.
Bo, I don't know how many people would bring this up to you, but I think I may be wrong on this, but Vic's been in the NFL since
85,
86.
86.
Okay. He has a world championship ring with the USFL with Philadelphia Stars, Baltimore Stars. They moved after a year. Abear beat them year one, so it was with Baltimore. So I don't know of another guy who's a coach that won a USFL title and now's won an NFL championship.
Damn.
From the old USFL.
Wow.
Because Jim Moore didn't. He won one in the USFL, but didn't win one in the NFL. Sidwell didn't do it. Man, I'm just kind of off the top of my head. I can't think of another coach, assistant coach, that won one in the old USFL and 40-something years later wins one in the NFL.
That's what a remarkable run. And to do this late in his career, to have the game plan of a lifetime, the game plan of the ages against the best player in the league, it's incredible. And they dominated from the jump. I mean, Mahomes looked lost. The Mahomes that's been amazing the last, whatever it is, 7 or 8 years.
It goes to show
they look
you
dumbfounded. Andy Reid's unbelievable as an OC. Good grief.
and to have that happen to you on the biggest stage.
Yeah.
And I say the same thing about Jalen Hurts. I think maybe the best 2 games I've ever watched Jalen play were both Super Bowls. He lost one.
Yeah, 35-31.
And then, he wins this one. How cool he was under pressure. You can say, well, anybody can do that. Well, yeah, you ain't anybody. Okay, you're going to have, 130 million people watched you? And that's not counting people at bars and restaurants and everything else that are watching. That 100, when it's going to come out, when Fox lets it loose and it's official, it'll be the most watched game ever in pro football. But to think all those eyes watching you and that much pressure, and it's one game, winner take all, and to come up with those type performances in 2 games that Hurts did. Now, he didn't win the first one, but he outplayed Mahomes back then. 2 years ago,
Good
he
point.
outplayed him. It was the defense that couldn't stop Mahomes late.
Right.
And then you look at what he did, this past Sunday. It was just a great performance.
Wow.
And that team has some legs to it, the Eagles. Because, a lot of times you look at Super Bowl teams and you wonder, can they come back? And it is very hard to get back to a Super Bowl. But that team has a lot of talent returning. And Howie Roseman's done a very good job cap management, drafting, and finding these hidden jewels along the way from a veteran standpoint that doesn't cost them a ton of money at that time. But to have a team with, I think you got 2 of the highest paid offensive linemen in the league. You have, you're paying A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith pretty good money. Jalen's making good money. Saquon's making really good money. And defensively, you're going to now have to figure out who you want to pay. Because, some of those guys are first-round picks, so you got them on football minimum wage probably for another year or so. But then after that, somebody going to have to get a check cut to them.
Mike D., thank you, man. That was awesome. You're the best,
Thanks,
and I hope you have a great week. Thank you, buddy.
Thank you.
At Mike Detillier on Twitter. He's awesome. I could listen to his voice all day. WWL Radio TV New Orleans. That interview was brought to you by Your Next Video Board. Your Next sound system in your stadium, your arena, your amphitheater. All powered by Sound and Communications. Your next video wall for your lobby, your university, law firm, CPA firm. It's powered by Sound and Communications. SoundcomAV.com.